Doesn't that surprise me?
Greetings. Welcome to This, That, and the Other, where I react to, respond to, comment on, question, or otherwise propound on whatever I find of interest on any given day. Now, today's topic Before we get into today's episode, I want to back up and fill in a couple of missing items in episode 4. First, Cass Harmon reads back to episode 2. Many of the more powerful characters throughout the book are tested by the ring, starting here with Gandalf.
Take it, Gandalf. Take it.
No, Frodo.
You must take it.
You cannot offer me this ring.
I'm giving it to you.
Don't tempt me, Frodo. But through me, it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine.
It dawned on me that I didn't mention Elrond's refusal of the ring. I missed it because it wasn't as overt as Gandalf's temptation back in Hobbiton. And it wasn't obvious because no one else in the council seemed to be influenced by it either. Except Boromir, of course. And you had to be sharp to notice it even in him. As always, it's much clearer in the book. Responding to one of Boromir's campaign speeches, Elrond says, quote, "I fear to take the ring to hide it. I will not take the ring to wield it," unquote. The second issue is Saruman. But which Saruman? The one in the book or the one in the movie? They are two different characters. In the movies, he makes a big deal about supporting and joining with Sauron. In the book, he does no such thing. He is in this for himself. He did not build an army worthy of Mordor. He built an army for himself. He lured Gandalf into his clutches just to be his henchman. Gandalf, of course, saw through this, observing, quote, "Only one hand at a time can yield to one. So do not trouble yourself to say, 'we,'" unquote. As for the Fellowship movie, there is much Peter Jackson attributes to Saruman, but there's absolutely nothing in the book. Outside of the 3 pages he shares arguing with Gandalf, which is just a flashback, he does not appear at all. And doesn't until near the end of Book 3, which is the first half of The Two Towers. He barely even mentioned until Treebeard starts talking about him well into The Two Towers. I understand adaptation, but totally rewriting a character's story arc to make him something he really isn't is just not right. It's only going to get worse. Okay, let's begin. There's one thing to add this time. Because of the content of this part of the movie, I think I need to add another symbol in addition to the not in book and not in movie ones. Most of the upcoming section of the movie is sort of in the book, in spirit, but not precisely to the letter. A visual paraphrase, if you will. Now, for these scenes, I will use simply a large red O, a partial not in book. Now, the first few minutes here are probably sponsored by the New Zealand Tourism Board. Reactors are almost unanimous. New Zealand is an incredibly gorgeous place. Otherwise, it serves to suggest the passing of time and distance. It'll be 2 weeks and roughly 200 miles before anything of interest happens.
Good. Very good. What is that?
Nothing. It's just a wisp of cloud.
It's moving fast.
The Treebane present two of many events that occur in a different place at a different time under different circumstances. One is the appearance of the birds themselves. The other is just as they're spotted, Boromir says, quote, "It's moving fast against the wind," unquote. Actually, it was a day later when Frodo and Gandalf and Aragorn, quote, "felt a shadow pass over the high stars," unquote. Gandalf says, quote, "It may be nothing, only a wisp of thin cloud," unquote. Aragorn muttered, quote, "It was moving fast then, and not with the wind," unquote. Now, somewhere in this confused timeline, we have a which way do we go discussion between Gandalf and Aragorn. Aragorn is leery of the Gap of Rohan since Saruman's treachery become known. Gandalf says, quote, "There is another way, and not by the pass of Carandos, the dark and secret way that we have spoken of," unquote. Aragorn responds, quote, "But let us not speak of it again until it is plain that there is no other way," unquote. So, Gandalf was in favor of Moria all along. It was Aragorn who warned him against that route.
Spies of Saruman.
Spies, probably. But of Saruman? The Saruman who's not in the book?
The passage south is being watched. We must take the pass of Carandos.
Mr. Gandalf, sir, that's where you were heading all along, remember?
Give the ring to Frodo. As you wish. I care not.
Think that's cute? Not really. Frodo is 10 years older than Boromir. Most, but not all, reactors notice Aragorn is ready with the sword.
Where then will you go? If the mountain defeats you, will you risk a more dangerous road?
There is a fell voice on the air.
Then Boromir, not Legolas, makes the, quote, "fell voices on the air," unquote, comment. And he was speaking more poetically than actuality. Like the Jimi Hendrix song, "The Wind Cries Mary." Aragorn replies, "There are many evil and unfriendly things in the world that have little love for those who go on two legs, and yet are not in league with Sauron, but have purposes of their own," unquote. If Gandalf wants to blame it on a non-existent Saruman, that's his problem.
It's Saruman!
No, it's not!
Trying to bring down the mountain! Gandalf, we must come back!
No!
The stay or go back argument rages throughout the storm. By the time the snow and avalanches stop, the party is buried. Boromir and Aragorn use their larger human bodies to burrow their way back to where the snow was less deep, Legolas guiding them from atop the drifts. They make a number of trips back and forth carrying the hobbits. And Gandalf and Bill, with Gimli astride, make it on their own. They then all head back down off the mountain. They travel on till fatigue and hunger bring them to a halt for the night. A discussion ensues about how to proceed. And Gandalf says, and quote, "There is a way that we may attempt. I thought from the beginning, when first I considered this journey, that we should try it. It is not a pleasant way, and I have not spoken of it to the company before. Aragorn was against it until the pass over the mountains had at least been tried." Unquote. Unquote. As I said before, Gandalf was in favor of Moria all along. It was Aragorn who warned against it. Boromir joins in with his usual Gap of Rohan request. It's decided that they should all sleep on it and take a vote in the morning. Except that night, they were attacked by wargs. Gandalf drives them off using his usual set fire to everything tactic.
The walls of Moria. Dwarf walls are invisible when closed.
Yes, Gimli, their own masters cannot find them if their secrets are forgotten.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
Typical of elf versus dwarf, but much gentler than in the book. There, Gandalf, speaking of something from the elder days, says, quote, "There was still close friendship, even between dwarves and elves," unquote. Gimli says, quote, "It was not the fault of the dwarves the friendship waned," unquote. Legolas says, quote, "I have not heard that it was the fault of the elves," unquote. Gandalf concludes, "I have heard both, but I beg you two at least to be friends," unquote.
It reads, "The doors of Durin, Lord of Moria, speak friend and enter."
What do you suppose that means?
Oh, it's quite simple. If you are a friend, you speak the password and the doors will open. Anon Nathalan, Edro Hiamen.
Do not disturb the water.
Now, the stone is thrown by Boromir out of frustration, not Merry and Pippin out of boredom. Gandalf solves the riddle himself without any aid from Frodo.
Bella.
This is no mine. It's a tomb.
Goblins.
We make for the Gap of Rohan. We should never have come here.
Now get out of here! Get out! Get out! Spider! Get off there!
We now have but one choice. We must face the long dark of Moria.
most of what happened outside the mines is mainly accurate, but in a different sequence.
The wealth of Moria was not in gold or jewels, but mithril. Bilbo had a set of mithril rings that Thorin gave him.
Oh, that was a kingly gift.
Yes. I never told him, but its worth was greater than the value of a shire.
Now, aside from a brief mention of some vague possible footsteps earlier on, there's been no sighting of Gollum, except one mention when Frodo was nearly nodding off. Quote, he fancied that he could see two pale points of light, almost like luminous eyes.
He will never be rid of his need for it.
And no,
And loves the ring.
and no philosophical discussion of life, death, and Smeagol's backstory. Remember back at the Council of Elrond when Gandalf said, quote, but he may play a part yet, unquote? No, that's right. He said it in the book, not the movie. But it needs to be said for future reference. So here it is.
My heart tells me that Gollum has some part to play yet, for good or ill.
Oh, no. No.
Here lies Balin, son of Fundin, Lord of Moria. He is dead then.
All the reactors are of one mind. Why did they bring that idiot with them?
Fool of a Took. Throw yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity.
The battle in the tomb only took one page. Pretty much the universal reaction to Frodo getting speared. Why does he keep getting stabbed? Simple. The ring attracts evil, so the baddies are drawn to him.
A bell.
And now what you've been waiting for. Introducing today's special guest star, the Balrog!
You shall not pass!
I had hoped that this would have been the last episode on the Fellowship. But it just turns out that there was a lot more to cover than I originally thought. So we're going to have to end up doing another one. But since most of it's already done, it'll be coming at you fairly soon. Okay? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you shortly.